catching the wind perfectly. The hull is reinforced and
What
ready.
if the
Onward.
ocean chose you again? Not because you asked, not because you were ready, but because something ancient and unfinished pulled at you from the deep, like a current you could not see but could always feel. This is the question at the heart of Moana 2. And before we even get into the story, before we break down every breathtaking scene, every twist, every emotional gut punch, I need you to understand something about what this movie is actually trying to do. Because on the surface, yeah, it's a Disney animated sequel about a Polynesian girl who loved the ocean. It's colorful, it's got incredible music, it's got a demigod with a magical fish who creates jokes at the worst possible moments. Kids are gonna love it. Parents are gonna cry exactly twice. Once at the beginning and once near the end. But underneath all of that, Moana 2 is a movie about something much more personal. It's about what happens when your calling changes. When the things you thought you were made to be turns out to be just the beginning of something much bigger, much more dangerous and much more terrifying than anything you ever faced the first time around. It's about growing up, really growing up, not just finding your place in the world, but then having that place shift under your feet like the tide. And I tell you right now, I did not expect this movie to hit me the way it did it. I went in expecting a run ride, a worthy follow-up, maybe something the world cashed it on the original legacy without really earning it. And there are moments, I'll be honest, might reach the highest of the 2016 original. But there are also moments, whole sequences, entire songs, specific scenes where Moana 2 does something that only the best animated films can do. It reaches through the scenes and puts its hand on the chest and says, "Hey, I see you. I know what it feels like to be lost, and I'm going to show you the way. So pull up a chair, grab your snacks. We are going all the way in a Moana 2. The story, the characters, the music, the themes, the symbolisms, the things the movie does brilliantly, and the things that hold it back from true greatness. Let's dive in. Moana 2 was released on November 27, 2024, Thanksgiving weekend. Because of course Disney is not leaving that box office real estate on the table. It was directed by David Derrick, J.R. Jassinghand and Dina Laddox Miller, with Dana Laddox Miller also serving as a writer on the project. And it's worth nothing that Dana Laddox Miller is the herself of Polynesian descent. She is Filipina and Nian, which means that the creative team continued the original film's commitment to cultural authenticity, albeit with some ongoing conversations in the Polynesian community about representation. The film stars Auliʻi Cravalho representing her iconic role as Moana, alongside Dwayne Johnson returning as the demigod Moi. New additions to the voice cast included Ulala Pesan as the soft-spoken and unexpectedly complex Ludo, David Finney as the lovely Dan Skelly, Rose Motifo as the Ferris and funny Moni, and Avemi Fraser as the mysterious and melancholy Matangi. Now here is the context that a lot of don't know. Moana 2 was originally conceived as a Disney Plus streaming series. Yes, you heard that right. This was going to be a multi-episode television event. At some point in development, Disney looked at what they had, looked at the quality of the animation, looked at the ambition of the story, and made the call to upgrade it to a full theatrical release. That decision paid off financially. The movie opened to over $20 million globally in its opening weekend, making it one of the biggest animated openings in history. But it also means that the narrative structures of the film is a little episodic at times, more fun than later. Audience expectations going into this film were massive. The original Moana from 2016 is genuinely believed it's one of the defining Disney animated film of the 2010s. Lin-Manuel Miranda's music, the gorgeous or iconic animation, Auliʻi Cravalho powerhouse performance as Moana, and all of it created a cultural moment. So a sequel was always going to be walking into the pressure cooker, and it does so with ambition, heart, and a new mythology to explore. Let's talk about with the mythologies. We open not in Moana, we open on the ocean, of course we do. The camera drift blows the surface of a shimmering jewel glossy, and there is something immediately different about the animation here. If you saw the original Moana and marveled at how Disney rented the ocean, the stunning transparent living water, the that moved like a character, then prepare yourself because the water in Moana 2 is on another level entirely. The rendering technology has advanced dramatically. You can see individual particles of sediment drifting in shifts of light. You can see the pressure of the deep in the way evening seems to be slow and hushed the further down you go. And then a voice, Moana's voice, older, more settled, but still trying that spark. She tells about the ancient world, about the time before memory, when the Polynesian people were voyagers beyond compare, sailors who read the stars like a language and navigated thousands of miles of open ocean without instruments, without maps, guided only by the wave pattern and wind and almost spiritual connections to the sea. She tells us about Nilu, and this is where the new mythology kicks in. Nilu is described in Moana's narrations as a god of storms, but not just any storms, deliberate storms. Nilu was apparently deeply invested in isolating the island of the Pacific from each other in the mythology of
Sails are
this
catching the
film.
wind perfectly.
Nilu
The hull
used
is
his
reinforced
power
and
over
ready.
wind and
Onwards.
sea to scatter the Polynesian people, to break the bonds between islands, to stop the great warring culture that had connected these communities for generations. He is the reason in the storytelling that the people of Matnui stop sailing. He is the ancient wound. Now Moana knows all of this. She's been studying it. She's grown into something that truly impressive since we last saw her. She is now the wayfinder of Matnui, not just a girl who wanted to sail, but the girl who brought sailing back to her people. She has restored her community connections to their voyaging heritage, and the village of Matnui is thriving because of it. We get our first full look at Moana, and she's grown, not dramatically aged, but there is weight of her now. She carries herself differently. That's great confidence in the way she moved that was not there before. She is no longer fighting to be taken seriously, she is taken seriously. And that is the both wonderful and, as we will come to see, a little bit of a trap. Because Mona has settled, she is building, she is nurturing her community. She is exactly where she wanted to do. And the ocean, as it tends to do, has other ideas. In a sequence that feels deeply reminiscent of the original film's opening, Moana is drawn to the water edge. The ocean sends her a vision, a series of fragmentary images that coalesce into a message. There is an island far beyond knows water called Motufitu, and Motufitu is important, critically, urgently, exactly important. In the world mythology, Motufitu was the anchor of the ancient Polynesian world. Imagine a spiritual and geographical nexus point, a place that once served as the hub of a vast network of connected islands. When Nilu raised a storm of legendary proportions and used its power to sink Motofi to benefit the sea, he didn't just destroy an island, he shattered the web. Every island that had been connected through Motofi to become isolated. Every voyaging tradition that had been sustained by those connections withered and died. Rising motivator restored it to the surface would reconnect the lost island. It would break the loose isolation curse. It would heal something ancient in the Pacific world. And the ocean has chosen Moana to do it. There's spot here that I want you to pay attention to because it tells you everything and who Moana is now versus who she was in the first film. In the first movie, when the ocean called to her, Moana's reaction was essentially, finally, yes, let me go. She was fighting towards the call because she has something to protect now. She has the community that depends on her. She has roots, and the ocean is asking her to leave them again. This is subtle, but it is the emotion engine of the entire movie. And the best version of Moana 2 lives inside that hesitation. More on that when we get to the themes. At Moana can't make this voyage alone. The distance to Motivator is vast, far beyond even the most impressionable fiction wayfinding journey, and the ocean's warning is clear. Nilo is just an ancient history force. He's active, he's still out of there, still stunning storm, still energy. So Moana does what any good leader does. She builds a team. And here the film introduce our new crew members but and I want to give each of them their proper introduction because they matter. First Lotto voiced with genuine warmth and surprising deeply by Halala passion. Lotto is Monoi's residence, inventor and tanker. She is brilliant, genuinely, visibly brilliant in a way that the movie takes seriously, but she has a habit of getting so lost in her own mind that she something misses what's right in front of her. She joins the crew because she wants to see things. She wants to know things. There is hunger in her that feels authentic and relatable. Then there is Gail, the big, warm, slightly confused muscles of the group, voiced by David Fans with impeccable comic timing. Kelly is the kind of character who in lesser lands would just be the comic relief, and he is frequently hilarious. But there are moments where Kelly shows a kind of guileless bravery that catches you off guard. He is not the sharpest navigator on the water, but he is completely and utterly loyal. And in a movie about what connection, people they count of a lot. And then Moni, Rose motivated absolutely threw herself into this role. Moni is a fearless, quickly, physically capable, and trying a personal history with Moana that gives their dynamic, genuine textures. She's not joining this voyage out of pure adventure love. She is joining it because of something unresolved between her and Moana, a past disappointment, a moment where Moana's mission and Moni's need pulled in different directions. That tension does not dominate the film, but it gives Moni's character an edge that makes her more than just a sidekick. Together, these three pulls Moana make up the core crew. And yes, before you ask, Mui actually joins them, but not immediately. And the way Mui comes back into the story is extremely good. Before the group departs, we get the film's first major musical number, and I want to spend real time here because the magic of Moana is both its greatest assets and an interesting case study in how to follow up something legendary. The original Moana had Lin-Manuel Miranda Tita for and Mark Menka creating a score that provides how far I'll go. You're welcome. And shiny three song that have genuinely embedded themselves in the culture conversations. This is near impossible act to follow. For Moana 2, the music was handled by Abigail Borlo and Emily Pierre, the duo who won a Grammy for their written musical composition, and their work here is genuinely impressive. Different in textures from Miranda's work, where Miranda's lends into Broadway rap songs energy. Barlow and Beard are more melodic, more atmospheric, and more tied to the emotional underscores of a sense. The departure songs Beyond opens with Moana standing at the prows of the newly built which canoe looking at the horizon, and the song does exactly what a great Disney departure song needs to do. It takes the internal conflict we have already established and externalized it through melody. You can hear the excitement in the first verse, the uncertainty creeping into the second, and then the resolve, that gut feeling, spine straining results that means you why Moana was chosen in the first place. Auliʻi Cravalho voice has grown with the character. There is power to it now that was present in the original but has matured. When she builds the final note of Beyond and the canoe catches the wind and the camera pulls
The
back
sails
to
are
show
catching
the
the wind
vast
perfectly.
impossible blue
The
of
hull
the
is
ocean
reinforced and ready.
stretching
Onward.
out ahead of them, it works. It really genuinely works. The second act of Moana 2 is structured as a series of island encounters, and this is where that TV series DNA shows up most clearly. The crew sails toward Motofito, and along the way they encounter island. Each island is a kind of self-contained world, a different community, a different culture, a different problem, and Moana and her crew must navigate these encounters, earn trust, and gather resources of knowledge they will need for the final confrontation. The first island they reach is in the grip of a powerful and eerie stillness. I mean this literally. The island is where is an unnatural calm. No wind, no surf reaching the shore. The vacations on the inland slopes is grey and brittle in a way that has nothing to do with drought. The people who live there are quiet in the way that people are quiet when they have been afraid of for so long that they have forgotten what it sounds like to not be afraid. Moana learns through conversations with the island elders, a magnificent character design, elderly and dignified and heartbreaking. That Nalu predominantly sweeps through this region of the oceans, leaving these zones of enforced calm in his awake. They they aren't peaceful. There are smoother lives require movement, requires changes, requires the energy of wind and wave. Without it, those island communities are slowly dying. There is one of the film's most quietly devastating strategies. The visual language here is doing heavy lifting. The cartoons, the way even the music become muted and airless. It's unsettling in exactly the right way, and it gives Moana's mission a moral urgency that goes beyond the mythological. She is not just restoring an ancient island, she is fighting against the active, ongoing destruction of living communities. And then Matnangi shows up, and everything gets more complicated. Matnangi, voiced with haunting beauty of Avami pressure, is described in the film's mythology as demigod, but not the swagging fishhook spinning kind that movie represent. Matongi is quieter than that, older seeming. And despite her appearance, she has a relationship with the natural world that feels almost uncomfortable to watch because it's so intimate. She speaks to birds like they are colleagues. She can read the state of the ocean in a way that even Moana, with all her wayfinding, absolutely cannot. Matnangi knows about Motofito, she knows about Nalu, she agrees to help Moana but with a condition that the film handles with admirably ambiguity. Matnangi wants something in return, not treasure, not glory, something more personal, something tied to her own history with Nala that the film will slowly, carefully, like pulling a thread. What was eventually learned, and I'll got here in due course, is that Matnangi and Nalu have a history, not just a mythological one, a personal one, and that history is generally the most emotional, complex things the movie does. But for now, in Act 2, Matnangi is fascinating world card. She is not sure whose side she is really on. You are not sure what she wants. And Whammy Fresher plays every scene with the quality of careful revelation. You feel like Matnangi is always telling you the truth, but never all of it. It's genuinely great performance that deserves way more conventions than it's getting. Okay, let's talk about the movie. Dwayne Johnson returns, and he's exactly in a way that surprised me. In the first film, I was deliberately poisoned as a kind of ego-driven foil for Moana, the big personality who needs to learn that his worth is not determined by the hook or the adorations of humans. He got his arc. He complicated it, so what do you do with him in a sequel? The answer Moana to arrives at his genuinely smart movie. It turns out it is dealing with the aftermath of growth. He is changed. We cannot see that immediately when he finally appears roughly 45 minutes into the film. He is no longer performing his own legend. The tattoo on his body, those living illustrations that always providing Ray community on his actions are quickly now less show offy. There is one tattoo in particular that appears on his back early in the second act. One that was not there in the original film, and it depicts something deeply personal that we only fully understand by the film's end. Mui's role in Moana is that of a mentor who is not comfortable with being a mentor. He knows more than the crew, he knows more about Nalus than anyone, including information he is been keeping to himself because the information is painful and because Mui, for all his growth, still has that instinct to carry his burden alone. There is a scene, probably 40 minutes into Moi's involvement in the story, where he and Mona has a confrontation style. She is pushing forward, he is urging cautions, and the argument between them is not about stubbornness or ego, it's about fear, real, genuine, complicated fear. And Moi, who has focused God and the monster and the furthest reaches of creations, is a fear. The way Jonas Johnson's Dwayne Johnson's plays that scene is something worth noting. He is not known as a stable actor. His entire public persona is built on scale and confidence, but in this movement, he brings something genuinely vulnerable to Moi that elevates the character beyond and what we saw in the original. You believe that this timing God, this legion is scared and the matter enormously for what the story is trying to say. The second act built towards a confrontation with the adventure of Nalu, not a god himself, not yet, but a massive weather event that Nalu sends to stop Moana's crew before they can reach Motofito. And this sequence is the film technical showpiece. I need you to understand the storm is extraordinary to look at. I have seen a lot of animated water sequence across a lot of Disney and Pixar films over many years, and the storm sequence in Moana 2 is the single best animated depiction of weather I have even seen in any animated film. The waves are enormous, not cartoony enormous,
The
but
sails are catching the
realistic
wind perfectly.
enormous.
The hull is
The
reinforced
kind of
and
scale
ready.
that
Onward.
make the canoe look like a toy. The interactions of the wind with the way are enormous, not cartoony enormous, but realistic enormous. The kind of scale that makes the canoe look like a toy. The interaction of the world with the sail, the way the rain comes in horizontally and the spray lifts of the wave crescents the rolling darkness of the clouds with lightning strobing inside them. All of it is rendered with the fidelity that is being animations and starts being experienced. And the music during this sequence, a churning, building, spectacle piece that layers in themes from Nalu's established musical motif makes it viscerally tense in a way that animated film rarely achieve. Characters are in danger, real, visible, terrifying danger. Kelly is nearly swept overboard. Lotto's careful mechanical systems for navigating through the storms are almost destroyed. And Moana, who has a relationship with the ocean, must now confront the fact that the ocean itself is being used against her. This is a beautiful thematic note. The very elemental that has always been Moana's ally is the weapon that Nalu wields. She cannot ask the ocean for help here. Nalu's power is bigger than their bound, at least for now. She has to navigate this without her greatness strength. They survive bravely. And what they survive bravely. And when the storm passes, when the crew looks around at the damage and each other with that specific kind of wide-eyed relief that only comes after genuine terror. There is something of silence that the film sure. And then Kelly says something that is objectively hilarious, and the theater I was in lost is its collective mind. Good comedy timing in a tense animated film is genuinely underrated. The third act of Moana begins when the crew finally locate Motofito, and it is not what any of them expected. Motofito is not fully submitted. It's something stranger. It exists in an initial state, partially in the world of the living and partially in something else. Part of it is yeah. Part of it rises above the surface as a broken, haunted landmass. Part of it clambers under the water in shapes that are not quite natural, and around it the sea has a quietly deep film red does brilliantly. It's too still Nala's influence concentrated at the site of his greatest act of destruction. He created a lot of profound natural wrongness. This crew is aware and afraid. This is when Matnungi reveals the full scope of it must be done and the full scope of what it will cost. To raise Motofitu, Moana must reach the heart of the island, a specific location deep beneath the surface where an ancient mechanism of sports, the film's mythology, functionality, because Nalu's influence contracted to at the sight of his greatest act of destruction. He has created a zone of profound supernatural wrongness. The crew is aware and afraid. This is when Matnangi reveals the full scope of what must be done and the full scope of the what the crew is aware and aware. This crew is aware and afraid. This is when Matnangi reveals the full scope of what must be done and the full scope of what it will cost. To raise Motofitu, Moana must reach the heart of the island, specific locations deep beneath the surface where an ancient mechanism of sports, the film's mythology is fascinatingly specific here, pulling from real Polynesian cosmological concept, still maintains the connection between the island and the sky. But getting there means going into the water at the site of Nalo's power. The Nalos will be waiting. There is an exchange between Matnungi and Moana at this point in the film. This is for my movie and the best written scenes in the movie. Moana's asked Matnungi where she's been helping them, what she really wants, and Matnungi, after a long pause, after one of these beautiful rendered animated moments where you can see a character actually deciding how much truth to offer, tells her Matnangi was there when Nalos sank Motofitu. She witnessed not a distant observer. She was close to Nalos then, and in a way that clearly paints her to recall she made a choice that day, a choice to not entanglements, and she has lived with the weight of that choice for longer than most human civilization have expected. She wants motivated rise. Matnangi was there when Naldo sank. Motivito she witnessed it not as a distant observer, she close to Nala then and in a way that clearly points her to the God.
Sails are
She
catching the
made a
wind
choice
perfectly.
that the
The hull
choice
is
is to be
reinforced and ready.
intervened,
Onward.
and she has living with the weight of that choice for longer than the most human civilization has excited. She wants Motivate to rise not just because it's right. She wants it rise because it is in some way she struggled into articulate recitations. She cannot undo what she failed to prevent, but she can help undo the damage. This is extraordinary writing for a Disney animated film. The idea that a powerful being, a demigod, someone with agency and ability, carries the guilt of inaction of watching something terrible happen and not stopping it, and that helping Moana is not heroism for Matangi, it's penance. The movie does not dwell on it, it gives it one scene, lands it perfectly, and moves on, but it stays with you. Moana goes into the water. This sequence is structured almost as a solo act. Moana descends along the crew, watching from the surface, unable to follow, and the deeper she goes, the more the animation shifts. The world beneath Motofitu is not the ocean we have been seeing for the whole film. It's something more ancient. The people palette shifts from blue to sea, indigo to a strange bioluminescent gold. Creature, creatures that look like they belong to some half mythological taxonomy drift far past in the darkness. And then Nalo. The film has been building towards this villain throughout, and the creative teams make a very specific choice in how they present him that I want to discuss in some depth. Nalo is not present as a monster, he is not dark for dark's sake, he is not evil in the clean, that theatrical villain's way that Disney has historically leaned on. He is something more disturbing. He is a being acting on a principle, a wrong principle, a principle that has caused incalculable harm, but a principle. Naldo believes genuinely, fervently believe that the Polynesians people were better separate, that the verbiage culture, the interconnectedness, the constant crossing of oceans, it was dangerous. People died, ships sank, families were shifted by the sea, and in his grief wrapped power destroyed worldwide view, isolating this island was an act of mercy. He is a protector who has become a captor, a guardian who has become a person warden, and when he sees Moana, this small human girl who the ocean has chosen, who carries the some voyaging spirit that he has spent on is trying to suppress. His response is not rage, it's something closer to profound, ancient excitation. He's tried, he's been doing this for so long, and he's never had to actually confront the human cost of his actions face to face like this before. The confrontations between Moana and Nalu is the film's most ambitious sequence, and it works in large part because of it. Moana doesn't do. She doesn't defeat him with strength, she doesn't outwit him with cleverness, she talks to him, she makes him look at what he's done, she makes him really feel the weight of the stillness. Those grey and dying islands they paused on their way here. She makes him understand that his mercy has become a wound. There is a song here, but the sea remembers that Moana sings at Nalu's and to him simultaneously, and it's a film emotional peak. It's not an action sequence, it's not a fight, it's a girl singing the history of the people he scattered back to him, making him near what his choices cost, make him confront the truth that he has been running from for centuries. Auliʻi Cravalho's performance in the moment is astonishing. The song moves from grief to anger to compassion in a way that feels completely natural and completely earned. By the time she hits the final chorus, I was done. I was in the theater weeping and not even slightly embarrassed about it. Nalu does not become good. Let me be clear about that. The film does not offer him a clean redemption arc. What it offers is something more nuanced, a moment of genuine recognition. He sees what he's done, he understands, maybe for the first time in a very long time, what his actions have meant for the living, breathing people of this Pacific world. And in that moment of recognition, he makes a choice, he withdraws not forever. The film suggests that an entity like Nalu does not simply stop being exciting or stop having influence, but he withdraws from motivator. He realizes the suppressions he is being maintaining, and as he does, the island begins to rise. The sequence of motivator emerging from the sea is frankly one of the most beautiful things I have seen in theater in years. The water falls away from the ancient storms in certain vegetation that has been waiting somehow in some magical status begins to bloom and unfold as the island reaches the air and light. The sound design, the crash of water, the creak of rock, and the sudden explosion of bird calls is extraordinary. And on the surface, Moana's crew watches, and beyond the crew, because the film has established this is a quietly brilliant piece of storytelling architecture, representative of the island communities that Nalu's islands are gathered, the people from the grey island that stopped it, people from each island the crew visited along the way, people who choose to follow, who choose to hope. They witness the miracle and the network, the ancient web of connections that Motufitu once ensured being to restore itself. Not magically, not instantly. The film is clear about this. The work of reconnections will take generations. It will require every voyager, every navigator, every person willing to cross the open oceans and see and say we are not alone, but the lock has been removed, the door has been opened. The final song, the Carltons, plays over this sequence and its triumphant soaring piece that earns every decaping. The entire crew signs it, even Moi, who is not known for the singing, contributes a gruff and unrelenting verse that make the audience laugh and cheer simultaneously. And Moana, standing on the first land of Motofito to be reached by sunlight in centuries, looks at the horizon. She's already thinking about the next voyage. Of course, she's the central project of Moana 2 is taking a character that Disney created as a symbol of youthful longing for pearls, for adventures, for the open sea, and asking what happens to the creators when the longing has been at least partially satisfied. The original Moana wanted to go, the sequence Moana has gone, has returned, has built something, and she is about to be asked to leave again.
The sails are catching the wind
This
perfectly.
is more
The hull is reinforced and ready.
physiological, complex terrain than most Disney sequel venture into, and credit to the writing them. They don't take the easy road of just giving Moana a new adventure and hoping the audience does not notice the lack of intrigue. They put her entirety on screen. They show her hesitation, they show her look at Motoi, at the people she loves, the community she's built, and the roots she's finally grown, and feeling the pull of the ocean as something that cost her something new. Auliʻi Cravalho carries this beautifully. Her voice performance has a maturity and a groundness that was not present in the original. Not because she was less skilled then, but because the character requires something different now. The notes she hits in the quieter moments, the scenes of uncertainty rather than triumph, and some of the best vocal acting in any animated film. The Barney Johnson arc in Moana 2 is interesting precisely because it's not the expected arc. A laser film would give Moise his own big moment of triumph, a solo battle, a spectacular feat, a moment where the demigod saves the day in his demigod Ashway. Moana 2 does not do that. Moana's most important moment in the films are most of sport moments where he uses his knowledge, his experience, and his hard-won wisdom to enable Moana to do what he needs to do. There is a scene where the crew is lost, genuinely navigationally lost in a way that Moana's wayfinding ability cannot resolve because Nalu has scrambled in the very stars they navigate by. And Mui, who has been to every corner of this ocean, who has sailed these waters far longer than recorded human memory, navigates them through it not heroically, quietly, but memory and by feel. And afterward, he does not say anything about it. He does not ask for credit or recognition. He just does it and moves on. This is an enormous amount of character growth for a Disney villain turned comic relief turned mentor character, and Johnson plays it with the resident that frankly surprised me. I keep coming back to Matnongi. I think she is the most interesting new character Disney has introduced in their animated canon in several years. The complexity of her position, a powerful being whose guilt keeps her from exercising that power until it aligns with restrictions, is rare in the kind of film. She is not a villain turned hero. She is not for a comic sidekick. She is witnessed some who has too much, done too little at the crucial moment, and is now trying to make things right without overstating her own role in the solution. A Bambi Fraser voice performance box an extraordinary touch. Matnangi could easily come across as cool to the point of being cold, mysterious to the point of being distant, but Fraser finds a warmth buried underneath all that resistance, and when it surfaces in small moments, in a look, in the way her voice softens just slightly at certain keywords, it's like a light coming on its dark room. The spotting clue is where Moana shows both its strength and its limitedness. Lotto is genuinely excellent. Her innovation-oriented mind gives the film some of its cleverest visual gags, and her relationship with knowledge for knowledge's sake is a counterpoint to Moana's purpose-driven ethos that adds real texture. Kelly works wonderfully as comedy relief, but gets one scene, just one, where he is genuinely emotional weight, and David Finn absolutely nails it. It's a scene where Kelly looks around at the group of people he is sailing with and says simply that he cannot believe this is his life. Not dramatically, just what utter sincerity. It is a beautiful Sambal moment. Moni is the most underdeveloped of the three, and that is the film's clearest missed opportunity. The history between her and Mona is hinted at compellingly but never fully resolved. By the time the climax arrives, she feels like Moniz are needed one more scenes to fully close. The central theme of Moana 2 is not adventure, it's not even identity, which was the engine of the first film. The central theme is legacy, specifically the weight of it, what it means to inherit a calling, what it means to carry something forward, what it cost you personally to be the person the world needs you to do. Moana has become between films a symbol not just to her own people but to the wider Polynesian world that has begun to rediscover its moving heritage through her example. She is a legend in information, and the film is actually aware of what does to a person. There's a quite devastating scene early in Act 2 where a young girl from one of the film they visit looks at Moana with the kind of stray-eyed reverence that Moana herself once directed at the ocean. And Moana's response to that look is a flicker of discomfort. because she remembers being that girl and she knows that the girl is seeing a symbol, not a person. The film is asking what is the cost of becoming the answers to someone else's prayer, and it goes fully resolves that question, which is I think intentional. The cost is going. Nalu's mythology gives the film is its most powerful thematic undercurrent, the idea that forced isolation is a form of violence. If you made it this far, you are the kind of viewer that this channel exists for. Thank you genuinely. If this review gave you something, whatever it made it, you want to see the movie or made you think differently about one you are already seen, or just keep your company for an hour, that's evening I could ask for. Drop your thought in the comments. Tell me where you agree, tell me where I am completely wrong, tell me which song from Moana you have been listening to on repeat since you left the theater, because I know you have one. The ocean keeps calling and so does the algorithm. Hit subscribe if you want to see more deep dives like this one. I'll see you in the next voyage.
The sails are catching the wind perfectly. The hull is reinforced and ready. Onward.